whatever its impact or quality, that is another issue. It may not have the same impact. Supposing I say something about certain issues, about fertility or about euthanasia, तार impact कौन होगा common man समझते हैं तार कुछ भी definite yardstick नहीं. It varies. But that it varies doesn't mean that they are important. This is all that I can say.
सर ये दर्शन फिलोसफी हमारे वेस्टर्न रे तो दर्शन वाले यूज हो वेस्टर्न रे फिलोसफी ना दर्शन फिलोसफी आमर संस्कृत में दर्शन आर डिफरेंस होछि ना मीनिंग फिलोसफी दर्शन हेला इंग्लिश रे फिलोसफीटा आम ताको दर्शन को इंडियन हमर फिलोसफी दर्शन के डिफरेंस विजन ऑफ ट्रूथ से विजन ऑफ रियलिटी डिफरेंस है आम जो साइंस दर्शन टाक दौर इंडियन थॉटरे वेस्टर्न थॉट में से देखछन डिफरेंस हमर जगह प्रैक्टिकल यूटिलिटी इंडियन फिलोसफी प्रैक्टिकल नोनी किंतु आर वेस्टर्न फिलोसफी किसी प्रैक्टिकल नहीं इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कोर्स नहीं प्रैक्टिकल होछि वेस्टर्न फिलोसफी नहीं प्रैक्टिकल कोन होछि हमर सब प्रैक्टिकल कोन हमर मुख्य प्रैक्टिकल किंतु जीवन मुक्ति प्रैक्टिकल वंचित होते मरिबो नहीं मुक्ति हबो नहीं मुक्ति हबो मुक्तिटा व्हाई शुड टू बी टेकन आइडियल आइडियल ना आइडियल ना प्रैक्टिकल बौद्ध धर्म हमर जो देले सारे कंक्रीट जो देले प्रोवाइड कले हमर जीवन रे या मानिले प्रिंसिपल हमें भले रहिबा सेटा होला कंक्रीट है नहीं इंडियन थॉट जैन बुद्ध किए मुक्ति कला कि निर्माण कला कि मुक्ति कला कि मुख्य कला प्रैक्टिकल क्या कहले सेटा प्रैक्टिकल केमति बुझिबो मत के बुझे दो हाउ इट इज प्रैक्टिकल आमे कोन दैनंदिन जीवन जेंति हमर देह खराब हेले आमे हमको तो खाले भलो होची कि हमको क्षेत्र एही सारा पकेले हमर चाष भलो होची कि हमर भलो आबादी हे पहुची इते जाके जनरल सेंस में प्रैक्टिकल बुझू से क्षेत्र मुक्तिटा हाउ इट इज बिकम प्रैक्टिकली बेनिफिशियल फॉर ईच एंड एवरी कपल मैन बा साधारण लोग पे प्रैक्टिकल ते कुछ वेदर मुक्ति इज आइडियल और ए फैक्ट आइडियल नॉट ए फैक्ट किंतु प्रैक्टिकल में कोड जाउ छु फैक्चुअल एलिमेंट्स ऑफ ना आइडियल बोले सफरिंग जो हम कहू फ्री फ्रॉम सफरिंग इफ यू फॉलो दिस प्रैक्टिकल है नहीं ना नो काई कि न हो दुखर विनाशे आमर निर्माण हम बस शांति हम जहाँ चलिए जितने जागो बा या ना दीवार पे कौन दरकार देयर मे बी आइदर मेंटल सफरिंग और फिजिकल सफरिंग या नाउ मेंटल सफरिंग भाई मत ये डिवाइस अच्छी मोस्ट ऑफ द को लेट्स नॉट कम टू मेडिसिन एट वंस डिवाइस अच्छी या मत डिवाइस अच्छी शारीरिक दुख या विषय फर्दर आलोचना न करा जदि खाली दुख अच्छी दुख निवारण दरकार दुख पे समुदाय चतुआरी आड़े सत्याड़ी जो कहले कि बुद्धिजीवी से प्रैक्टिकली कौन है सीटा गोटे पर्टिकुलर आइडियल पछरे बढ़े से आइडियल ठीक हो आई एम नॉट क्वेश्चनिंग दैट दैट बिकम्स स्टिल एन आइडियल देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन आइडियल एंड एक्चुअलिटी एक्चुअलिटी से बेसिसटा कौन के काम कला तू सीना जनकर ये करा गला बढ़ी आसुच्छे कौन दरकार बढ़ी आसा भाई बंद दरकार डैम दरकार एलिवेटर दरकार ये है गोटे चेकअप कर दिस प्रैक्टिकल ये प्रैक्टिकल एसेंशियल अरे ये कटक पड़ी जाओ बंद कर दे पैक दिस एसेंशियल कि जब तार कि अन्य कथा कर ना नहीं ये सब किसी नहीं डोंट गो फॉर दिस काइंड ऑफ कंक्रीटाइज्ड टूल्स कंक्रीटाइज्ड इंप्लीमेंट्स तुम्हें ता करनी तुम्हें ये विषय में प्रैक्टिकल आइडिया है इंडियन प्रोसेस प्रैक्टिकल नहीं जो भाव आमको चित्र कराई आई एम नहीं पूरा ता कहबी आई विल नॉट कम टू दैट कंक्लूजन अगेन दैट हैज टू बी फर्दर प्रोब्ड इनटू किंतु जो भाई भाव आम पाखे उपस्थापित करा से आई एम क्वेश्चनिंग दैट अच्छी कि नहीं सर अपना कहले
well further question not in the way in which they are presented they have to present it in other fashion
they have to be presented in other fashion. ସେଇଟା ପ୍ରୁଭ୍ କରିବି ମୁଁ ମନା କରୁନି କିନ୍ତୁ ମୁଁ ଭୋସ୍କି କହୁଛି ଏଇଟା ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲେନ୍ କରିଦେଉନି ମୁଁ କେବଳ ଏତିକି କହୁଛି ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଯେଉଁ ସେଇ ପ୍ରଥମ ମୁଁ କହିଲି ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଥାର୍ଡ଼ ସୋର୍ସରେ ଆମେ ସମସ୍ତେ ପଢ଼ିଛୁ we don't put the originals second and third source ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଅଛି ସେଥିରେ ସବୁ କିଛି ପୁରା କିନାରା that is all the reason ବୁଝିଲ
someone told the philosophy is no man's land.
no man's land ଆଚ୍ଛା ସେ କ'ଣ ତା ମାନେ କ'ଣ କହିବ କ'ଣ ତାତ୍ପର୍ଯ୍ୟ କୁହ
ସବୁ ମୋ ସବଜେକ୍ଟ ମ୍ୟାଟର
ସେଇଟା ସେମିତି କାହିଁକି ଅଛି ମୁଁ ତ ତା କହିସାରିଲା ତଥାପି ଆଉ ଥରେ no man's land no man's land
Women's land means everyone's land.
Yeah, very good. देखो
And anybody can play.
କାହିଁକି ଓ 3 ଦିନ ଛୁଟି ଅଛି ନା କ'ଣ ଓ 2 ଦିନ 3 ଦିନ ନାହିଁ ଆଉ କି 3 ଦିନ ବେଶୀ ବଡ଼ ତ କେତେ କେତେ ହେଲାଣି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିପାରୁନି କେତେ ହଁ ତାହେଲେ ଆଉ ସମୟ ଅଛି let us raise some further issues. You are all welcome to raise questions.
Sir, what actually philosophy is, according to you?
Is the that's very difficult to answer. The very correct question है the philosophy है होची.
Now, if it is not the, then it is not practical.
No, it is.
If it is practical, then it must be the.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. मुझे if you are referring to particular subject matter in physics or in chemistry or in botany or even in sociology, whatever it may be, then it becomes determined, confined. It becomes confined, limited to that particular framework. Anything that goes beyond that is not admissible, not by principle, but the factual demand is there. ମୋ କଥା ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ନା ଆଉ ଥରେ କହିବି ଜଣେ ବଟନିଷ୍ଟ ସେ କାହା ଭିତରେ ଷ୍ଟଡି କରୁଛି ସେ ଫ୍ଲାୱାର ପ୍ଲାଣ୍ଟସ୍ ଏଇସବୁ ବିଷୟରେ କରୁଛି ସେ ତାଠୁ ଅଲଗା ଆଡ଼କୁ ଯାଉନାହିଁ ଅଲଗା ଆଡ଼କୁ ଯାଉନାହିଁ ମାନେ କ'ଣ ଯେ ନାଇଁ ସେ ଯେ ଆମ କଥାକୁ ସବୁକୁ ଆଖି କାନ ବନ୍ଦ କରିଦେଇଛି ତା ନୁହେଁ ବନ୍ଦ କରିନି ଯଦି ତା ଅନ୍ୟ ବିଷୟରେ କିଛି ଡେଫିନେଟ୍ ଇମ୍ପାକ୍ଟ ୟା ଉପରେ ପଡ଼ୁଛି ତାହେଲେ ସେ ତାକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେତକ ପଡ଼ିବ ଅଦରୱାଇଜ୍ ସେତକ ପଡ଼ିବ କିନ୍ତୁ the question, the issue that must be raised within that framework. Say sense re philosophy ର ଗୋଟେ particular subject matter ରହୁ ନାହିଁ in that strict sense of the term, and that is well taken. But that does not degenerate the subject. Philosophy still has something common. Philosophy still has something common. ତାକୁ exactly pinpoint ନ କଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ କିଛି ନାହିଁ. पिनपोइंट कहीं करूँ नहीं तार कारण मत लोग देवी है ना एक देवी तुमको कुछ है a realist, an idealist, a spiritualist, a materialist in the classical sense of the term, a logical analyst, a formal analyst, a linguistic analyst, they are all doing analysis of various types. They are not exactly same. Logical analysis and the linguistic analysis, they are not exactly identical. There are variances, but still then they belong to philosophy in the sense there is no essence or the. There is some kind of family resemblance between the different sets of activities. There is a kind of, this is a term which I borrowed from another philosopher, Wittgenstein. There is a family resemblance between a realist and also an idealist. Though they are very much opposed to each other, still then sir, how there is a family resemblance between a materialist and a spiritualist? One says spirit alone is real and another person says matter alone is real. How there is a family resemblance? I still hold the view there is a family resemblance.
The aim is one.
Huh? No, not aim is one. Not aim is one. Aim is identical is one. Aim is not one at all. It is not one. This is not essence. Essentially, there is no point of agreement. There is no common essence on which there is a point of agreement between the realist and the idealist. But there is also a kind of familiarism in this sense. In this sense, I am spelling it out. In this sense, that what is the object of knowledge, or the better use the word content of knowledge, that becomes the question for them, question of interest, whether it must be object or it must be idea. Idea belongs to Berkeley, object belongs to realist. So in that way, the question becomes a common for the moment. But that question must be common for each and every philosopher. There is no such hard and fast thing. It is only a particular group, as instance which I have shown to you. There is a common part. But common part is not the essence. Again, the questioning is only a common point, and in that way there is a question of debate or dialogue between the two parties. So in that way, we can say, despite the fact of admitting any subject matter as the common fact, the subject matter or the essence, there can be a point of resemblance between different approaches, and in that way perhaps I would come to the conclusion, chemistry, physics, economics, sociology, though they are well demarcated, philosophy is not in that way well demarcated as this or that or X or Y or Z. But even then, philosophy each made a different discipline of its own than the other. We do make a distinction between common sense, science and metaphysics. We do make a distinction. Ordinarily, for our purpose, though it is not exactly pinpointed, if you ask what is the common sense, then probably we will be able to give a definite answer. But here, indefinability is not dogmatism, is not something which you can say, is based on superstitious framework. No, it is on account of the very nature itself that this kind of, what appears to be a common sense at one level may be said to be scientific at another level. I will give another example from the classical.
maybe metaphysical to another.
And then metaphysical. ताको होगी काहे के बारे में कोई मुझे पूरा एग्जांपल दिया है इसका. Everybody sees from the tree the mango is falling. Mango is falling. Oh, it's because of the blast of wind. हम लोग सब झड़ गया. We say that there is a common explanation. But then another common man also looks to that. There must be something else. We must have to theorize. We must have to theorize. What is the principle involved and inherent in it? That kind of questioning or probing further into the matter in a particular manner, in a scientific manner, that is not available to the common man. So in that way, out of the common people, one person becomes a scientist, one person becomes a philosopher, one person becomes the botanist, all at once doesn't drop into the heaven, from heaven to earth. That has to be admitted. A good botanist or a good economist is not all brought down from somewhere else. I am giving you a new theory. Not like that. Out of the common plane, he goes on pursuing, and which doesn't occur to the mass, which doesn't occur to the common man at large, that occurs to him, and he becomes a great economist. Either he says that it must be in terms of justice, or it must be in terms of fairness, or in terms of welfare economics. You know, there are three different classical examples. Justice must be in terms of what is due to you that you must get. This is one opinion. Justice must be in terms of fairness. This is another view, Raoult's view. Justice in terms of welfare, sense view, Amartya's sense view. You see? So, but all of them are they uncommon in the sense of their origin? So it all depends what you think and how meticulously, strenuously you go on probing the matter. Anybody is entitled to free thinking. We also should admit that a common man is also free enough to have a kind of thinking. If he doesn't pursue, who can help it? But if he pursues, he becomes. And then we use the other adjective to it, uncommon.
Then what is the job of philosophy?
Job of philosophy is he goes on probing into the matter, any matter that he can take up and he can analyze. He can go on thinking of, suppose he thinks.
Thinking is the job of philosophy.
Huh?
Thinking is the job of philosophy.
Thinking is not a monopoly of philosophy. You see, thinking is not a monopoly of philosopher. I still maintain that. Thinking, anybody can think.
Then what is the job of philosophy?
No, but thinking of a particular variety.
Maybe.
Maybe.
What is the job of philosophy?
Subject
No, no,
Nice.
no.
definite object.
Kondali?
Thinking about a definite
No, random thinking. There is, well, I got the point.
Sir?
There is a difference between random thinking and strenuous thinking, or I mean clear thinking, or serious thinking.
So what is the job of
Well, I'm going to respond to his question. The strenuous clear thinking is that which is not random, but taking a particular point of view and from a particular angle it goes on aiming at a solution for the time being, which is also not uncommon, which is also relevant to common man. It's a command.
what is the job of philosophy? What we will answer.
Job of philosopher is not confined to any particular subject matter alone, particular discipline alone, but to take up any issue belonging to any discipline, including that of the common sense, and trying to find out a particular point of conclusion which also is flexible in character, modifiable in character. But because it is modifiable in character in the future, therefore at the moment whatever is arrived at is all unwarranted, unwanted, that is not the issue. That is to be taken for granted. I will give another example. We have been told about monogamy. Monogamy. You understand monogamy? Marrying one. Right. Now that has become a well thought out or say standard way of thinking in certain areas of or certain groups of people, certain countries, and it is also taken to be not legal but also having a moral backbone. This is a common saying. I am giving the example without making any structure on any particular individual. Now give me another instance. 2 world wars, First Great World War and Second Great World War. They were originally, basically fought where? Answer. Both the 2 world wars, the main victim was one country, that is Germany. Germany. Fall of global name. Yes. Now, there was a time, it's not ideal, again not ideal, not metaphysical, purely practical question I am raising, practical issue. Because morality also should be considered at the practical front, not the theoretical ideal standard. There, in those days, the type of war activities that was going on, unlike today, here you just push up the remote controller and everything is done 1,000 miles away. That was not the system at that time. It was done in the battlefield and all that. Even plane was also introduced, ship was also introduced, but that is again confined to certain areas. In Germany, both the wars were fought and there was a massacre of killing, naturally. And who were killed? Majority of them are soldiers and they are what? They are of the male sex, usually male sex. And the ratio of the country after the war is such. It's a fact that the ratio between male and female is to turn as 1:6 or 1:8 or 1:5 or like that. If there are 8 women, there must be only 1 man. An example I am saying. Now in that country, in that situation, supposing we insist that it is immoral to have non-monogamy but polygamy. Is it moral or immoral? The question can be raised.
Moral.
That one should still go for one. No, then what about the other 7 persons or 5 women? They will be debarred. That is not proper. That is now thought. So in that way, morality becomes situational, contextual.
Circumstances.
Contextual. I will give another example from our Indian source. You see, these are the ways in which we have to rethink in newer ways, newer and newer ways, other than the set common standards. That is how I said that common ways of thinking may not be sometimes scientific, spiritual, philosophical and things like that. Now, in the Vedic time, Vedic means the Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa time, because Jnanakanda comes much after. They were having much emphasis on the rites and rituals. Okay? Shwarga Kama Jageta. What does it mean? If you have this kind of vidhi, if you have this kind of rules, if you have this kind of jagya, if you have this kind of homa, Havishya and all that, then properly, sincerely, according to the rules which are already prescribed in the Vedas and which you don't question at all, then you will be led to heaven. Putra Kama Jayeta, Sura Kama Jayeta, things like that. Now, at that time, there must be this kind of homa, there should be this kind of things, the offerings must be made by this sort of plantain paper, a plantain leaf, and this type of box, etc. They have to be framed by plants, leaves, like that grove tree or anything like that. Supposing these are the rules that are codified there, because at that time those were available. Maybe a common man still can raise the question. Well, in those people, they do not know the use of china clay. They have no knowledge during the Vedic time. They don't have this kind of utensils to pick up that stuff. If those things would have been available even that time, whether china clay or any other pot or utensil is more convenient than the plantain leaf or not, they would have agreed to that. But they have not. They have not because at that time that was available. Now, supposing we now insist upon saying that if you have a jagya, you must bring those things. Is it possible? Is it advisable? Next question is it advisable? Supposing a man of this particular locality is, as you are posted either in Barampur or in SBM college or X college or Y college. So, supposing a particular man of this tropical variety is to be placed there in Greenland. I'm just giving a possibility. Maybe it may not happen at all. Greenland. Or in the polar regions. Along he has to live for at least 6 months or 4 months with the Eskimos. Now there if you say, no, I must be a stark vegetarian. I cannot live without that. I must have to go, otherwise my life becomes hell. Is it possible? Is it desirable also? Is it morally permissible also? The question can be raised. The question can be raised. Now, if you insist for Sattvika as different, I am not there, I say that we should not be Sattvika at all. For medical reason also we can be Sattvika. But supposing we try to universalize the condition for all time, for everywhere, for each and every place, then that becomes a difficulty. That is not only, common sense is not practicable, it is also immoral. So also we have this kind of what they say, that is nothing we all know. Gadwa Chow. You know Gadwa Chow? Which is observed in North India. The wife in praise of the husband makes a brata and ultimately she must see the face of the husband in the mirror and all that. And we have the similar kind of thing in our society. What is that? Satyavan, Savitri Satyavan. That is there. We follow it. As a ritual, we follow it. It's all right. But if you try to go deeper into the matter, what do you find? What do you find? How, whether the tradition is morally acceptable or not, the question can be raised. Whether I am not condemning, but the question can be raised or not. Why should one man is to do all these things and the other man is to say, simply to get all the benefits? One can raise the question. Why should more pati more devata? Why should not more patni more devi? You can raise these questions. This is the matter of thinking. This is a matter for further thinking. I am not coming to any conclusion, but why should not there be rethinking about it? If feminism is a matter of today, why should it not be? Why should it not occur to those people at those times? Because at that time things are different. I am giving another one more example from another field.
Sir, that rethinking is philosophy.
Rethinking can be done in any manner. I am not
All
saying.
these examples belong to apple ethics.
No, not necessarily. I say this may be of philosophical importance, I agree with you partly, but this may also be a rethinking for the social reformer who doesn't know ABC of philosophy.
Definition yes of ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ସବୁ partially right, not wholly right.
Maybe partially also not
also
right.
କହିଲେ sir philosophy is total of all science, science of all sciences. ତାହେଲେ philosophy coordinates the result of all sciences. ତାହେଲେ philosophy becomes empirical. empirical ହେଇଗଲାନି philosophy empirical ହେଇଗଲା ତେଣୁ ଆମେ
ବୁଝିଲି ତୁମ କଥା ବୁଝିଲି
without ontological metaphysical ଯୋଉ implication, how can you understand the world as a whole? Keମିତି how it is not possible? How do you unify all the results without application of metaphysical notion? How can you unite all
Okay.
the definition that partially right?
अच्छा सुनो
Sir, I am just adding to his question. All human knowledge, whether it may be common sense, religion, philosophy, everything, all human knowledge is flexible and relative.
रिलेटिव
Do you think that human knowledge is the standard?
नहीं अच्छा हो कोई सर
Do you think that human knowledge is the standard except mathematics? Can you get a conclusive result? Whether it may be
variation is also
metaphysics, science, or religion,
variation,
anything, everything is based on speculation.
No.
Even common sense is speculation.
Well, I will explain to you. In our language, whether it is original Sanskrit language or our regional languages like Bengali, Hindi or Odia or anything like that, or South Indian languages, our vocabulary is somewhat weak. Weak in the sense it is not so much widespread. That is not saying anything against language as such, Bengali language or Hindi language as such. But the nuances of different meanings, you understand? Nuances of different meanings, which are formulated widely in another language, there is a variation. Now, you have used the word speculation. I have never so far used it in my speech, till now. I have used the word conjecture. I have used the word hypothesis. Even guess also can come in. Chimera also can come in. These are different words. To a general mind who is not very much deep into the matter, it may appear to be same. Even speculation also may appear to be same, as you put it. But there is a difference. The difference is that speculation, another word also which is somewhat nearer, imagination. A poet imagines, a storyteller imagines. Through imagination, whatever he places, okay, that may have either a remote or indirect significance to the social structure or to the issue of morals or the issue of beauty or things like that. May have, I don't deny that. But even then, if you want to take those things, the piece of literature or the piece of poetry, as literally true, then there will be disappointment. It is not intended to be. So he expresses that it is not intended to be. A poet never intends that what he places before us through poems is real in fact. He always makes a distinction between the reality and the imagination. But through imagination, he gives certain ideas which may have some direct or indirect relevance. So in that way, we are influenced, we are emotionally charged, we are intellectually also having some kind of boosting, but not actual relevance, but boosting. Such is not the case with speculation. Particularly that is implemented by a philosopher of the classical variety, metaphysics, for example, or Euclides. It is not that. Speculation is of a different nature than imagination. Speculation is also different from hypothesis, conjectures, which are very much used in science. I will talk to that in my next class, how it is different. But only this much I say, in speculation, we don't talk about imaginary things knowing it fully well that we are doing it imaginarily. We give a different status to our speculation. Whether it is Plato or Sankara or X or Y or Z in the classical sense, from any corner, they are all the time saying that the content of their speculation, the consequence of their speculation, the result of their speculation is not about something unreal. It is a structure about reality. This is the kind of saying that they go on all the time. So ontologization is a term which is applicable to philosophy in the classical terms, not found any root in science or in social science either. It always depends upon either an observation or an experiment or on both. It is factually oriented. That is why, because the speculation is more on the other level of reality which is not known ordinarily, therefore it is said to be beyond physics. That is the root. So speculation need not at all to be confused with conjectures and hypothesis. Hypothesis is called a provisional supposition. That is the exact meaning of the term hypothesis when you read in inductive logic. Inductive logic. Yeah. So what does it mean? It is only for the present, so long as its content is not found from the factual source. So determinant is what?
It is true.
By
the false.
So the word truth is not to be taken in the absolute sense. The word truth is to be taken in the provisional sense. But Paramatman is Chirantana Satya, Trikala Vaitya, cannot be falsified. Real is rational for all the time. There is no specification. That is the difference. So don't confuse between metaphysical aim. Those who maintain that metaphysics and philosophy, they are all having the same goal or common goal. It is perhaps misleading, I would say. Conjecture, hypothesis, they are of different nature. Imagination is of a different nature. Where in our classical language, they are not so much well differentiated because of the paucity of the language. That may be another issue. For that, we need not.
My point is, what actually is, nobody knows.
Why should we take it for granted?
Let me finish.
No. Why should we take it for granted? Why should we arrive at this conclusion?
Yes, I will. What actually is, nobody knows. Therefore, there is science, there is religion, there is metaphysics. So many people are there who describe what actually is. So whatever they think from different standpoints, that is their philosophy.
Okay. Thank you. This is also.
Knowing
as your experience, so is your
nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Coach. This is
which way know?
When we open our mouth to describe something, we think that there is something which we are going to describe, but we do not know what actually is. We describe it as our mind allows us to describe.
Okay. Finished? Are you finished? Okay. It's all right. This is the usual way of approach by many thinkers. He is not the only person, and he is still giving credit for that. There is no point of dispute. But my difficulty is from the common sense source also. What is that which is common for everybody's pursuit? Whether it is in science or in philosophy. This is the first pre-assumption involved in this type of questioning. Do you agree or disagree? That there must be one thing which remains unknown and we are all trying to know it.
Is it the first presupposition or not? This presupposition, whether it is valid or invalid, that can be raised or that cannot be raised. That can be raised. Okay, okay. That you have accepted. Now since you have accepted that, there follows, by saying what is that which is common or which is the, we are already imposing on that particular questioning a singular mode of speech, not a plural mode of speech. Is the, what is the? Is it right? By saying this, we are already presupposing that there must be one reality to which everybody is approaching from different corners. That is the basic assumption which needs further analysis, which needs further questioning. Why should I say, or on what ground do I say that it is only one, that reality must be one, reality must be one? This is again ontologizing. Ontologizing in one manner, a metaphysical ontologizing. That reality must be one, it must be such in many ways. Reality may be many, reality may be innumerable character. Who knows? Since we do not know. So, since we do not know something, why should we presuppose? That is the next question. That becomes the next relevant question. If we do not know, you should be silent.
Now, if you do not know, we have to make hypothesis.
No, if we, no, yes, hypothesis. But that hypothesis, all hypothesis must be about one reality that is not known. The hypothesis may be about different varieties.
Naturally, that is our status. That is the status of human knowledge.
So, in that way to say, yes, in that way to say that philosophy and science or metaphysics or X or Y or Z, they have the common goal is mistaken. Definitely mistaken. They have different activities. They are all touching in different planes. So, to have the kind of basic assumption.
That is support a hypothesis, philosophy hypothesis, science hypothesis.
No, philosophy speculation in the classical sense of the time. Science is never asking anything about ontology. Science is never raising this question. Science never raises this question. It is only philosophy in the Science is having its own definition.
That is the job of philosophy, to ask question about
you see this definition or this account of philosophy, that philosophy must raise certain questions which are beyond the realm of science, clearly reveals, if this definition is accepted, that clearly shows philosophy is not on the same footing like that of science. They have not the same object matter. That clearly itself shows. That's why I make a distinction between speculation and conjecture. Yes, please.
Traditionally, Indian philosophy is interpreted as practical and pragmatic by nature. But this nature has been changed. So now,
the questions I have raised. I have raised some questions. And if somebody was raising सर्व कुछ ही धर्म से क्या धर्म दर्शन विषय पर कुछ कितना हाँ तुम्हें खुद right.
Sir, what is the present nature of Indian philosophy?
Well, there are different views. That is up to the person who is investigating the matter. He would decide for himself. But there is definite difficulty in accepting this practical mode of Indian philosophy in the classical sense. That I have tried to explain to you. About the darsana and philosophy.
Sir, what is your personal view?
My personal view? My personal view is that, this is my honest view. I am honestly saying to you, that the way in which Indian philosophy is presented to us through the writers, commentators, interpreters, in most cases, they are on the wrong track. This is my personal view, and I can go on discussing with you for hours together. Because the fundamental reason is this. One particular view of philosophy is so much emphasized through tradition, and subsequently it has been taken so much granted that it becomes almost the truth about Indian philosophy, which actually it is not. Going through the original literatures, it is found, on the contrary, there are so many different types of views and drishtis, you can say drishtis as putting it in our language, that they are so variant in nature, they are so diversified in nature, to bring them into one is rather completely misleading. Is rather completely misleading.
Gods of philosophy, the gods of all gods, everything. He could have explain the
नहीं मैं क्लासिकल इंडियन एग्जाम्पल दूँ तुम्हें इंडियन कथा पता चलता है इंडियन एग्जाम्पल दूँ all this darsana principally is said to be ब्रह्म विद्या उपनिषद वाले कोट कर दले केन उपनिषद कोट कर दले कि ईश्वर उपनिषद कोट कर दले कोट कर दले क्या दले तब केन उपनिषद एक्चुअली केन उपनिषद ये ब्रह्म विद्या okay this is a view as a view I don't disagree but I'm not making challenge but what is this view? Is it the view? In his sense, the question of the is raising. It is the view? No.
It is a view.
This is one of the views. A view, right. A view. When you go deep into the classical Indian philosophy, at least the way in which it has been presented to us originally in its original sutras and bhashyas and all that, if you go through that, it is absolutely different. It's completely different. But some other, say Vedanta view asla, Brahma view they asla, at one stage historically, either for good or for bad, historically, the kind of belief element, faith element, bhakti element, that also become prominent. And it becomes so much prominent that ultimately that itself is the entire, that is taken for granted to be the entire philosophical tradition and other things are left apart. This kind of resentment towards this approach is not done by today's thinkers, not done by people of our variety. It is done in tradition. I will now give you another example. Since you have raised this question, some of you have raised this question. From 300 BC, unfortunately we don't go by that. We don't read that or we don't circulate that. And unfortunately also, there is no series of commentators or tikakaras followed that tradition. Like Vedanta is being interpreted by Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Nimbarka, etc., etc., etc. Do you know whom I am referring to? I am referring to Chanakya, the composer of Arthashastra, who is also said as Vishnugupta. You are now seeing, you might be seeing some of the serials. Now, in each Arthashastra, in 300 BC, historical I am not just creating from my own mind. He has acknowledged during his time 3 Vidyas as the Darsana. Since you have raised the question about Darsana, I am raising it. Darsana in Arthashastra. What are those? Trividya. He has used the expression Trividya. Tri, you understand? Sankhya, Yoga and Lokayata. Lokayata, you know Lokayata? Charvat, that comes. Only these 3 he has recognized. The whole of Purvamamsa, the whole of Uttamamsa perhaps doesn't come by that time. Because Upanishad Bhashya that maybe that date or little after. But Vedanta, I mean Vedas or Vedic formulation, that was very much there. There will be basic formulation, it's very much there. So he has not referred to that. And so also Buddhism as a dharma or Jainism as a dharma, those are not taken into consideration. Why? There must be some reason behind it. Whether we accept or reject, that is another question. The reason also he has given. The reason is that these 3 are Trividyas or Vidya worthy name from the Darsanic point of view because they have taken recourse to the method of philosophizing in the Indian sense of the term. The use of the word philosophy I am using in the Indian sense of the term. Darsana. In the sense of finding out the hetu, and on hetu they proceed further. The word hetu is very much there. What does the word hetu means? Hetu means the cause. The reason. Yes, right. Cause in the scientific, reason in the general sense. Sankhya is known as, probably not have come across, or you might have known also, in the Indian tradition as Yukti Shastra. Yukti. You understand? The different items that are accepted in Sankhya and in the classical Sankhya. Purusha, Prakriti and so on and so forth. Isn't it? They both also know that.
but no Ishvara. They are advanced, established or presented in the system not by quoting certain hearsay either from the Vedas or from the Puranas or from X or Y or Z, but independent arguments are adduced by the Sankhyakas in support of Purusha, in support of Prakriti and so on. The arguments may not be decisive. The arguments can be opposed. That is another matter. That is purely another matter. But the arguments are given. Not like iti breda srute, iti srute veda.
Original.
This is the thing. So, causal or rational edifice is taken within darsana, not the way in which we are taught in the modern time. Darsana is said to be Hetu Vidya in generic sense of the term. Of course, that can be taken up by science in a different sense. But the sense of emphasizing through reason certain thing, discussing, analyzing, elaborating a point of view through reason is there in Darsana during that time. And the book which you are mostly taking as textbook for the students and also for yourself, I will refer to one line from that. You know Hiriyana, Outlines of Indian Philosophy? You know it? There, you will go and you can see, you can find out for yourself. There is a clear saying in the footnote that at one time, without referring to this Chanakya, but there is this reference, the Darsanikas, they are called as Pramanikas. Darsanika अन्य synonym होची प्रामाणिक. In no other discipline, whether Arthashastra or Samhita Shastra or Jyotish Shastra or X or Y or Z, whatever is recognized to be Shastras in our Indian tradition, nowhere detailed discussion about the condition of Pramana, the nature and status of Prama, the nature and status of Prameya, those are discussed, except in philosophy. I mean, in Darsana. Whether you take Lokayata or this Sankhya or Nyaya or anything, even in Vedanta also, there is a discussion about Pramana. That is why another thing that has been developed in Indian tradition, when you look to the Bhashyas on the Sutras, you follow? Whether it is Vedanta Sutra or Sankhya Sutra or Nyaya Sutra, it is followed by commentaries or things like that. Discussion continues. There we find the mode of discussion takes this type of process. The point which you want to justify, whatever may be the point, if you want to justify, you have to first state what would be the possible objection from Purvapakya or opponent. Taking that into account, in your own way, you are exposing the opponent's point of view may be mistaken. That is a different thing. I don't go into that. But that is the standard. You have to take that norm into account. And then you try to justify it through giving the Uttar. So Purvapakya, Uttarpakya. Purvapakya. So dialogue is maintained. That is why it appears to me Darsana is not different from philosophical debate. Darsana is philosophy. The moment we try to make a division, we are probably under the phobia of the dogmatic religion, dharma and the kind. But strangely enough, this kind of phobia is not warranted, because in our tradition, the word dharma and the word darsana, they are clearly differentiated. They are two words, they are never identified. In tradition also, dharma and darsana, they are never identified. But the present day people, they are doing it, that's all right. If they do, what can I do? What can I do? We have to say our point. So this is the thing. Tarka Shastra, Nyaya is said to be Tarka Shastra, Sankhya is said to be Jyoti Shastra. And for this kind of approach, I would advise you to look to another book, another very important book, by an Indian author who is a Nobel laureate, Amartya Sen, Argumentative India. Please go through that. You will find this kind of how diversification is more important than a monistic outlook. It is a monistic phobia. I am using a strong word now. A monistic phobia which has been
imposed on us since long time.
So to say the view is a dogma. The view is equal to dogma. A view is an excuse to dogma. It is also dogma.
No, it becomes a dogma. It becomes a dogma if you take it for granted that a view belongs to a whole and it is a part. If you don't take that
It
view,
still requires further thinking.
A view.
But the view is absolutely dogma. So
But
a view
becomes
is an excuse to dogma.
right. But I would add one more
So
word, one more
my
expression.
point is, sir, this process will go on for eternity.
That's all.
There is no end.
Eternity, again, eternity is a confined word. It goes on.
It will
It
go.
goes on. Charimeti, that is also a tradition. In our
If
tradition,
all the human beings will die, then philosophy will die.
that is a, even science also will die. That is
origin କୋଉଠି ହେଲା?
Charimeti is very much there in our tradition. So that is no. Yeah, another question which was raised.
origin ଟା କୋଉଠି? ଜନ୍ମ ହେଲା ମଣିଷ ସଭ୍ୟତା ଆସିଲା ତା ମାଇଣ୍ଡ
ମାନେ ମୋ କଥା ହେଲା ମଣିଷ ମରିଗଲେ ଫିଲୋସଫି ସରିଯିବ କିନ୍ତୁ ମଣିଷ ବଞ୍ଚିଥିଲେ ଫିଲୋସଫି
ଅରିଜିନ ଯୋଉଠି
ଶୁଣି ପାରୁନି
ଅରିଜିନ ଯୋଉଠି
ଟିକେ ଶୁଣ ଟିକେ ବସି କଣ common system. Well, we don't find anything like common as the common. We can find in some ways some ideas are similar to another group of ideas. Sankhya kete bada point with the Nair achi, but Nair kete bada point ye Buddhism achi. Kintu common point something which you can identify. Well, it is difficult to find. Concept of? No, I don't think so. Even about liberation, if you give me time, of course, now, if you give me time, I can explain to you. The term, please, just cooperate. He is raising a very good question. To say that liberation is a common point, that is the view that he is raising. I would submit to say that even the talk of liberation itself doesn't occur in Indian philosophy. Liberation is a Western term, which they have. No, moksha is not the common term. Moksha is not the common term. Mukti, moksha, kaivalya, apavarga, nirvana, they are so much variant and they are so much different in meaning. To say all of them they belong to one category, that is liberation or moksha or mukti, whatever you say, this is a misleading proposition. There is a lot of different. But in tradition also you will find liberation and moksha, they are identical. But this is again a second-hand source. This is again a third-hand source. If you take the original connotation of the term nirvana in the Buddhist literature, by going through the originals, not through the second and third-hand sources. If you go through the original literatures concerning the term moksha, you find moksha is not mukti at all. To say that mukti and moksha are absolutely identical is a misnomer. Moksha belongs to a particular systematic point of view. That is Advaita Vedanta. In a Ramanuja we never come across the term moksha. Why? There is a reason behind it. It is not simply imagination. I mean, just a mere guess. They have argued out. Even a theist also argues out. Why does he say that the Brahman must be not Nirguna but be Saguna? If a Ramanuja maintains that a Brahman must be Nirguna, Saguna, not Nirguna. It is just by faith, just by belief, or by reason. By reason. So a theistic reason also, whether we accept the reason or not, that is another question. But the reason is advanced, that because a substance cannot be conceived without qualities. This is also a metaphysical view you find in Western philosophy. Substance cannot be. That is how Spinoza talks in terms of attributes and Leibniz talks in terms of modes. Yes. So whether we agree with the reason or not, that is another question. My point is that philosophy in India is purely philosophy in itself. There is absolutely no distinction between darsana and philosophy if we go to the originals. But if we go through second and third hand sources, that is all.
Okay. So we meet for religion next day. No, next time I'll talk about philosophy, no doubt. Occasionally I will refer to that. But the principal topic will be religion. Religion and dharma.
ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन আমি তো কান্ট ফিলোসফি পড়ুছি রিয়েলিটি अबाउट কান্টস ভিউ अबाउट द नॉमेना the thing in itself is unknown and unknowing. Our metaphysical reality is transcendental and immanent and it is knowable by pure intuition. But Kant's system is agnostic, whereas our system is speculative and sometimes it is misunderstood as mystic and also dogmatic. Is it real?
I will refer to that question.
His question was Kant is dogmatic or Indian views are dogmatic?
I will now switch about something other than philosophy because time is over. अच्छा each एक को समझते नहीं हो समझते ठीक है अल्प ये
Then traditional philosophers have viewed that reality is transcendental. Others are of opinion that reality is immanent, and some others are of opinion that both transcendental and immanent.
तुम्हें कुछ इंडिया ने केंद्र हम ट्रांसलेट
सेमानर सिस्टम को हमें agnostic कॉली rationalistic कहूँगी, whereas our system is dogmatic and mystical. ये जो concept है हमारे misunderstood होती है, ये विषय में मुझे
डॉक्यूमेंट का कोटा को डॉक्यूमेंट को
traditional जो metaphysical reality का somehow it is misunderstood as the dogmatic.
मिसअंडरस्टूड लिखा है पूछो चाहते
एसेंशियल कहूँ जो रिलीजन को आसूँ तो आम डगमाटिक कहूँ
रिलीजन में कही आई विल एक्सप्लेन टू यू इन व्हाट सेंस दोज हु क्लेम रिलीजन टू बी डॉगमेटिक इन व्हाट सेंस दे हैव मेंटेन्ड इट आई विल एक्सप्लेन ओके दैट आई विल एक्सप्लेन in the next class that will be devoted to religion and also science to the other class.